Hi, I'm Commissioner Mike McKeon, and I'd like to welcome everyone to a very special episode of the Public Works Pipeline. With me here, Commissioner Todd Sinai, Commissioner Ray Courtney, Commissioner Andy Gavrin. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Todd, Andy, and Ray all got on the board between 2018 and 2019, same year that I got on the board. Commissioner Anthony Stevenson also got on the board with us at that time. I asked him to come today. He said he had some dry cleaning to take care of. We missed you, Anthony. We're here today. The big issue is the Public Works mailbag is just overwhelmed. I can't get through it. So I appreciate you guys coming out here to talk a little bit. And if you don't know, Todd's got Merion Station.
Yeah.
Okay. Ray, North Ardmore and Wynwood.
Yeah.
And Andy, Rosemont and Villanova, correct?
Correct.
All right.
Got it.
Outstanding. All right. Well, with that, let's get some of these questions out here.
Is that an Amazon package, Mike?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that got in here. Let's see here. All right, our first question here comes from a Dr. Nick. He says, "Hi, everybody." Hi,
Hey,
Dr.
Doctor.
Nick. And this is for Ray. Who is the idiot that came up with the idea of a sustainability director, and what is that position all about?
Oh, well, that idiot is a group of idiots. I won't claim full credit, but I guess if we're talking about an idiot, I was the one that proposed it in the budget, 2 years ago? The idea was to have a point person in the township responsible for environmental sustainability, green initiatives, and just generally helping us mitigate the effects of climate change. So COVID hit, put some delays in the hiring process, but in the meantime, our EAC worked on an energy transition plan. The Board of Commissioners, adopted a carbon neutrality goal of 2045 earlier this year, and then we did finally hire a sustainability manager over the summer. She got started. Her name is Paloma Villa. She's got a background in civil engineering and sustainable engineering, and she's hit the ground running. She's been working with our EAC, helping them take the work that they did for their energy transition plan, prioritize some of those recommendations. Here's a teaser for you guys. Coming up over the next 2 weeks, there will be a memo about some things that we can include in the budget for sustainability initiatives in the coming year, some potential infrastructure projects, and maybe even some uses of that ARP money, which I know Andy's really excited to hear that there are even more proposals coming his way.
Can't wait.
That's right.
And during our short meeting last night, Paloma drafted a memo about electric vehicles. Some of those will go to the Public Works Department. It's nice to have a full-time staff member who can dedicate her time to those kind of issues.
Yeah, it's excellent. As I said last night, we talk about the vehicle fleet replacement every year, and we talk about electric vehicles every year, and this is the first time we've had someone break it down for us, give us some dollars and cents and carbon emissions numbers to look at, and give us something meaningful to debate about when and how we should transition our fleet.
All right, next question here is from an Admiral Akbar. So Admiral, I'd like to thank you very much for your service. And let's see what he says. I am not happy with the saldo. Please do not pass it. It's a trap. So what do you guys think? I mean, should we toss the saldo, or are there good things in the saldo?
So everyone's looking at me. Well,
Aren't you the building and planning chair?
First off, Mike, thank you for inviting us on the show today. It's great to talk to you. It's great to talk to your viewers. The saldo is what controls how new development looks in the township, and it's kind of interesting. The township largely is built out, right? There's relatively little new development. When the projects show up, they are substantial, they're important, but there's relatively little subdivision or land development happening. But when it does, we need to guide how it looks, how many, what the landscaping needs to be like, how the streetscape needs to be like, what kind of building conditions it has, what kind of infrastructure it needs to have for the future. So I think it's important. It's a process that's underway, and if your viewer is not very excited about where it is right now, we're going to have public input in December, and he or she should come in and speak then.
So that would be a good time for the Admiral to get more involved. And the saldo, that no one anticipates passing that until some point in 2022, right?
Yeah.
All right. This next one here says, Vice President Gibson, Can you explain the township's proposal to spend a portion of the ARP funds to renovate the Ashbridge House?
Sure, I think that's a wonderful question from Sam, and I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Sam the Eagle from Rosemont.
Yeah, it's amazing. You didn't even pick it
No.
up. You must have known it in
Yeah.
your head. So you didn't even have to look at the question that was submitted. So
Why would I bother doing that? Yeah.
Why start now? So we were very fortunate. We received from our federal government, from American Rescue Plan funds, $25 million over 2 years. Now it's an absolute blessing that we have this money, that we can do some wonderful things at the township. The Finance Committee met to create a recommendation over the month of October, and really what we thought made a lot of sense was to invest in a couple of major projects that would really help those that are most in need in our township. And one of them, as Sam brought up, is Ashbridge House. Ashbridge House is a Class 1 historic property within one of our main parks within the township, and frankly, it's gotten run down through the years. It's not handicap accessible. You can't access the building, you can't access the kitchen, you can't access the bathrooms because of when it was built, and it needs a lot of work. We have a nonprofit group called New Horizons that works with a lot of our disadvantaged seniors within the township. They are looking for a permanent home. Over the past few years, we've talked with them about using the Ashbridge House as their permanent home, and it needs a lot of work before they can do it. And this was a great opportunity to be able to support that, to support New Horizons, to support one of these beautiful historic properties within our township. And it all came together for a really strong recommendation with the ARP funds. And I'm very hopeful that recommendation is carried out by the whole board and agreed upon by the board, along with some of the other recommendations for the use of those funds.
And where are we with the ARP funds, right? There's it's about a $25 million amount that we
Correct.
get, right? And it's in two different portions?
Correct. So we received half of it, $12.5 million approximately this year, and we receive another $12.5 million next year. The recommendation for now is on spending the first $12.5 million. We're going to hold off on the second because of uncertainty. We don't know what the needs are going to be, what the budget's going to look like next year. So we're allocating right now, depending on when you watch this fine show. We have either allocated already or made a decision on the funds, or currently we're in the process of debating it within the board.
Right. This show will be broadcast in December, so that
Okay.
will be part of the deliberations will be ongoing, I guess, at that
correct.
point. So.
Yeah.
All right, this next one's from Dr. Lecter in Gladwin. Dr. Lecter writes, as a retired psychiatrist on a fixed income and a longtime taxpayer, I do hope the township will not be raising the solid waste fee on seniors like me. What does the 2022 solid waste fee projection look like? And this is good news we have to report, right? There's no changes on the solid waste fee. You'll get a letter in the mail, but if you don't need to change your subscription in terms of the amount of cans you use or whether or not you have curbside, you don't need to do anything. And the residents will get a bill in around February 2022, and that's the solid waste fee or the trash fee that you have to pay. And my hat's off to Andy and the Finance Committee last year, right? You guys spent
Yeah.
a long time working out that proposal. And I know in the township it used to be if you had 6 cans or 7 cans or 8 cans, so it got streamlined. It's a lot more simpler now.
Can I just point out I won
Yeah.
a bet on that from President Bernheim. The amount of solid waste did go down when we changed the structure. Am I right about that? You're looking at me puzzled. I know I won a bet. I can't remember the exact terms, but President Bernheim owes me $1.
So it may have had something to do with solid waste.
It definitely had something
Okay.
to do with solid waste.
Fair enough. All right, this is from a Sloan Peterson, and she writes, Commander Synott, is the township working on a sidewalk policy? If so, what is going on with it?
Yes, we are working on a sidewalk policy, and I'm glad we got that question. So we have a township that, for a lot of reasons, is not fully sidewalked. And what we also have is a township where the population is starting to walk and bike more, and we need a way of getting people around town safely where they don't, it's safe with the cars. So the trick with this is that we have so many places without sidewalks that you can't possibly put sidewalks in everywhere. And a lot of those places have things like trees, and as our public works director likes to say, there's a reason that they didn't put a sidewalk in there 100 years ago, which is it's really hard to do in that spot, right? So we have to pick and choose. And that's what the sidewalk committee is doing, is trying to find really where the most bang for the buck is for where you put the sidewalks. And that's the process that's underway, is whittling down really 50% of the township to the small fraction where we can afford to put sidewalks in and where they're really needed.
And do you anticipate recommendations like sometime in 2022, or what's the timeline?
Yeah,
of
I
that?
expect we'll have recommendations in 2022.
And you're the chair of the sidewalk
I
committee?
am chair of the ad hoc sidewalk.
The ad hoc
committee.
side, yeah. All right, well, excellent. So it looks like we have time for at least one more question here before we go to the break. This is from Jenny from around the block, and Jenny writes, Vice President Gavrin, I heard there's a new civic association in Rosemont, Villanova. What's up with that?
That's sort of correct.
Okay.
There is a reconstituted civic association. We had one for years, and over the past decade or so, there really hasn't been an active civic association. And I was very excited when I came onto this board 4 years ago to do a lot more outreach with the neighbors in Rosemont and Villanova. And having some of these conversations really, I think, hopefully, was part of the reason that the interest was sparked in restarting the Civic Association. We've seen around the township the influence that the civic associations have, the voice of the residents, which is so important for us as commissioners to be able to reach out to our residents, to understand the pulse of the township, what people want, what people are looking at. We haven't had that in Rosemont and Villanova over the past decade. So kudos to those who are restarting it. We've had 2 meetings now. We're well over a dozen people were at the last meeting, so it's exciting, and it's an opportunity for
And
the
is there a
people.
website or a Facebook page?
There is a
Okay.
website and a Facebook page. I don't have it offhand, but I'm sure you can see it on the screen right now.
I have a feeling, it's on the screen right now as well.
So yeah, please, if you're in that part of the township, please join. I think it's a great opportunity to have your voice heard.
All right, well, thank you very much. That's all the time we have for segment 1. Please stick around. We'll be back with segment 2 in a few minutes. Hi, I'm Commissioner Mike McKeon, and I'd like to welcome everyone back to segment 2 of the Public Works Pipeline. With me here are Commissioners Sinai, Courtney, and Gavrin. Andy won a golf tournament during the commercial break, so it's a short tournament, but well done. Well
Mini
done.
golf tournament.
Yeah. So we're going to jump back in. There's just too many questions. So the next one here is from a Shooter McGavin, who's with the Belmont Hills Golf Course. And Shooter writes, Ensign McKeon, how many alien bodies is the township storing at the Kegel complex? I think there's, 6 from that crash in Bryn Mawr in 72.
Yeah.
And then there was the one over in Gladwin a few years back. I don't know if the bodies are still there now.
It's a
but
transfer station. When do we send them to Area 51, right? We're just temporary storage.
that was my understanding of the agreement.
Yeah, but
yeah.
we're forgetting the 3 that are so secret. You guys don't know about them.
Well, they're not a secret anymore.
All right. Well, I don't know where this is going. Let's move on here.
Compost, right?
Wow.
Can't compost alien bodies.
Are they an inorganic material?
What's the next question?
It was about composting. I don't know how Ray was able to do it here. But this comes from Hans Gruber from English Village. And Hans writes, Gentlemen, I'm a longtime fan of the show and first-time writer. How can I compost in Lower Merion? So some things you can do. You could get a compost bin from the Lower Merion Building and Planning Department. You can hire a private contractor and work with them, Mother Compost. The township also composts leaves from the fall at its 17-acre Waverly site in Gladwin. So that's where we are now, but there's certainly, I think, a lot of developments that we could see in the future. So, Ray, you seem the most eager to talk about it. I don't know.
Yeah. Before I even became a commissioner, when I was first thinking about running, people were talking about composting and could we get some kind of program in the township. I think it would be great to have a pilot program. I think restaurant composting would be the biggest bang for our buck or for their buck, depending on how we would cover that cost. And just my personal anecdote is that when we started composting at my house, I had to take the trash out significantly less because there was a lot less of it.
Yeah, and I've started composting recently. I got one of the compost bins from the township, and it's so easy, and it really has dramatically reduced the amount of trash. And trash is expensive. Not only is it terrible for the environment to continually be throwing things in landfills or burning them. It's expensive. It's really expensive for the township, and to be able to do the right thing for the planet and also save a ton of money, it's a no-brainer. The bins are incredibly inexpensive, and it really helps. I mean, I've seen it over Halloween. I've had all my neighbors just give me their pumpkins, throw them all in the compost, and each pumpkin weighs 5-6 pounds of trash we're not throwing out.
And your flower beds are thriving with all
Yes,
that extra soil.
they absolutely are.
We were able to reduce waste, I think, 50% or so at our house when my oldest daughter went away to college. But then she came back. She's living with us now, so the waste went back up. So it was a temporary fix. This next one here comes from a cousin Eddie, and he writes, "Is the township doing anything to get rid of single-use plastics? What's this I hear about a lawsuit against the state of Pennsylvania?" So I want to pass this like Ben Simmons to Ray here.
Something I've been saying.
Still shoot.
What is the township doing about single use? So the lawsuit is actually being led by the city of Philadelphia. So the state passed legislation to prevent any sort of moratorium on single-use plastics, and the city of Philadelphia, who had an ordinance against single-use plastics, led a lawsuit including several municipalities, and we decided to sign on with them because we want to have an ordinance around single-use plastics, and we are unable to do so. So that's what's going on with the lawsuit. What would actually be in that ordinance is still something that's up for debate. We've never actually brought it before the Board of Commissioners, except for 30 seconds to bring it up to table it. But reducing plastic in landfills is another great sustainability initiative that would make a huge impact.
Yeah, and we've seen a problem with recycling is that there's too much right now in terms of commingled, and a lot of those plastics are not being recycled. They're sitting there in landfills. So this is from Mr. Hand, and he's looks like this is addressed to you, Todd. It's a warning. It says, "Mr. Sinai, what is going on with the City Line Avenue Special Services District? Is new stuff on the horizon? Thanks for your time, and my time, which I guess is our time." So I don't know what that's about. But what can you tell us about the City Line Avenue Special Services District?
So thanks for that question. There is a lot going on. I think the first thing that has happened is that the longtime, president or executive of the City Line Special Services District has retired, and a new replacement has just been announced. A resident of Ardmore who had run the East Passyunk Avenue, I'm not getting this quite right, business improvements district that led to the revitalization of that area in Philadelphia, will now be running that special services district. And there's a lot going on. We talked a little bit about new development earlier. As you know, in the Ballackinwood area along City Line Avenue, there is a proposal for a tremendous amount of new development, both in terms of apartment buildings, offices, some retail, some hotels. And having a guiding hand that will help coordinate all this is really important. And I'm excited for the new person. I think he thinks about the health of a business area. That's his background.
Oh, that's great. This next one here is from Detective John Kimball. And the detective writes, "What's going on with the Kinwood train line? I'm glad the line is in service, but why don't we have more trips?" And this is close to my house, not quite in my ward, but what I can say is that the situation with the Kinwood train line is SEPTA's approach is sort of like Field of Dreams, but in reverse. It's not if you build it, they will come. It's if you come and ride, they will add more trips. So right now there's 5 trips a day, I think, going in and out of the city, and as ridership increases, hopefully we'll see more and more trips. But SEPTA had revenue issues, as many other entities did during the coronavirus, so unfortunately they had to cut back the trips, but I'm hoping that we see more of that in the future here. Next one is from Enrico Palazzo, and he writes, "Dear Commissioner Courtney, what exactly is Intergovernmental Council, and what is it doing?"
The Intergovernmental Committee is a group of commissioners and a group of school board directors who get together to talk about issues of mutual concern. And so we had public meetings in 2020 to talk about various land development the school district is doing, and an offshoot of that, Commissioner Gavrin and myself started meeting regularly with School Board President Lucy Klein and School Board Director Peter Lee to talk about all these issues. The big ones, the two biggest that we've been focused on have been the application for lights on Arnold Field and the new Black Rock Middle School fields. You want to talk about either of those?
Interesting you mentioned that. This next letter here from Clarence Boddicker writes, what's the status of the new middle school construction? So would you like to answer Clarence's question? I think so.
I think
Might
yeah.
as well, yeah. Or maybe it's this one.
I don't know. No, thank you, Clarence, for that good question. The school the school itself is under construction. It is still scheduled. It's on time. It's scheduled to open next September, which is very exciting. As not only the ward commissioner, I'm also a neighbor. I live in the neighborhood where the school is being built, and I'm also a parent of next year will be 3 middle schoolers. So I'm getting hit with it on all sides. It's incredibly exciting. It's been a lot of stress on the neighborhood. You have a site that was empty that has turned into a 1,200 person middle school with all of the construction issues that came along with that. And I really applaud my neighbors who've been wonderful neighbors throughout this, who've experienced a lot of frustration. But ultimately, hopefully we will have a beautiful new school on that end of the township. So the construction of the school itself is going along smoothly. The question is, the school district realized they did not have enough space to put all the fields that they needed to support the school for all the interscholastic teams. So they purchased this property kind of across the neighborhood off of County Line Road. There have been a lot of concerns with that, including some major concerns that I have with the amount of trees that would have to come down, the historic buildings that would have to come down, the impact on the neighborhood. So as Commissioner Courtney mentioned, we've been meeting with a couple of members of the school board trying to work on alternatives. And we don't have a solution yet, but we have been working really well. I have very high hopes with the new superintendent leading the administration. We got to meet him recently, and I think everyone on the board was blown away and really impressed by him. I think that we will be able to come up with a creative solution that will solve their needs and also meet the needs of the township. So we are still in process, and hopefully we'll have some good news, in the beginning of the new year.
Now, does your neighborhood still lead the township in power outages?
Oh, we do. No, it's my house is ground zero for that. So if you think commissioners get special advantages, it is not true. We did. I looked at PICO numbers, and I was in the top 10 in terms of power outages in the township.
Is the new middle school going to be on a different grid? Or
it is. Of course,
okay.
It's on a different grid, because why would that help me?
All right, this next one here is from Ty Webb, and Ty writes, what is the township doing to improve its electric vehicle fleet and limit the use of leaf blowers? Will this impact local lumber yards? I don't know if, we had a little discussion about that last night, but...
I could start with the EV fleet, and then you can pick it up.
I'll
on
talk about
in
leaf
the
blowers.
90 seconds that we have left.
Yes, the EV fleet.
I like to be a leaf blower.
So on the EV fleet, we're going to do a pilot program. We've asked staff to come back to us in a month with a proposal.
Okay, so the issue with leaf blowers is environment and noise, right? And so there's probably two things that we get complaints about all the time. And the question is, how do we get people to move away from this technology? And what we have spent a lot of time doing is investigating what the alternatives are, where the technology is. It's probably suitable for small properties. Our Parks and Recreation Department, which has spent years piling this stuff, finds that you can't do 12 acres with it. Right. So we're trying to figure out where it's appropriate and how do you encourage people to be noise and environmentally conscious.
Great. Well, and unfortunately, that's all the time we have. The Oscar music's going to start playing in the background soon. But I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today and watching the show. And thank you very much for your time, Todd, Ray, and Andy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for having us, Mike.